Previously on the history of Naruto games.
Before the year was over, Bandai Namco, finding a lot of success in the West, decided to develop their first PlayStation 3 game exclusively for Europe and North America. This would be the birth of the Storm series.
The jump from PlayStation 2 to PlayStation 3 saw a significant improvement in the graphics department. The fighting system was completely revamped, going from a 2.5D system to full 3D stages. They brought the free roaming and exploration of Konoha back, as well as a few minigames we'd seen in the past. And it really was a turning point for Naruto games. Not only was the game a huge success in the West, for the first time ever, we had a game that Japan didn't have access to. And that didn't sit well with the Japanese market. Even though the game only covered the story up to the Sasuke rescue arc before the time skip, before Shippuden, Japan still wanted this game. So a couple of months later, Bandai Namco brought the game over to Japan. And that made them realize that the world was connected. That we knew what was going on in Japan, and that Japan knew what was going on here. And that maybe the fact that the West anime hadn't caught up wasn't that big of a deal because of a little thing called the internet. And so from here on out, Bandai Namco games would be published at roughly the same time in Japan and in the West. Bandai Namco wasn't ready to give up on the PlayStation 2, however. After all, that console sold like crazy, and there were still many consumers out there buying PlayStation 2 games. So, Ultimate Ninja 4 and 5 were both ported over to the West in 2009, while Tomy doubled their efforts on the Nintendo DS, which as far as handheld consoles went, it was still more popular than the PSP. They brought Ninja Destiny 2 to the West while releasing the third one in Japan, and brought Ninja Council 4 as well, which in reality was Saikyo Ninja Daikeshu 5 in Japan, but at this point, who's really counting anymore? Bandai made another interesting move this year. They transitioned one of their PlayStation 2 series to the PSP. In an effort to compete with Tomy's dominance in the handheld market, the sequel to Uzumaki Chronicles 2 was called Naruto Shippuden Legends Akatsuki Rising, and once again, it came out exclusively in the West. Thanks to the first Storm game, Bandai saw the potential of the Western market. Unfortunately, this game felt like a step backwards for the Uzumaki Chronicles series. The change of platform created many problems for the game, namely camera controls, clunky gameplay, and a filler storyline. And in Japan, they also transitioned to the PSP with their Naruto Mate Axel series. You may remember Axel 2, which was Ultimate Ninja 5 here in the West for PlayStation 2, and now Axel 3 came out on the PSP, and only a few months later it would arrive at the West as Ultimate Ninja Heroes 3. A 50-character roster, original story and anime story modes, and a 4-player free-for-all local multiplayer. Not bad for a portable fighting game. But the final months of 2009 belonged to Takara Tomy, who was about to launch their last hurrah on the Nintendo Wii. In Japan, they launched Gekto Ninja Taisen Special, which updated the roster, added a substitution bar, and didn't really do much else. They also tried something new on the Wii, an adventure game called Ryujiki, which came to the West the following year as Dragon Blade Chronicles. The story was filler, the combat was doing the same combo over and over with a few Rasengans in the mix. It's one of the worst Naruto games of all time. But alongside it, Tomy also released one of the best Naruto games of all time, Naruto Clash of Ninja Revolution 3. This was the pinnacle of the Clash of Ninja series. 40 playable characters with online play. You could play 1v1 or 2v2 matches, with the ability to call in for partner assists. The fighting was incredibly polished. The character balance was a real concern from the developers this time. And it even has a story mode which was kind of unfairly difficult, but that also made it memorable. Online play was a bit laggy, but this game even created a competitive scene around it. People would gather from all over the place to play local tournaments. That's how good this game was. But arguably, it was too late, as the Storm series had just established itself as the new king of Naruto games, and that led to Tomy giving up on home consoles, focusing their efforts on the portable console games. 2010 saw Tomy devoting their efforts exclusively to the Nintendo DS, and even though their efforts became more focused, their interest in Naruto seemed to be slowly dying. This year they would only release 2 games for the console, Naruto Shippuden Ninjutsu Zenkai Chakrash, which would come later to the West as Shinobi Rumble, a 2D fighting game with a retro style that was simply not responsive enough, which made it a bad game. And they also brought over their most recent Ninja Council game from Japan, Naruto Shippuden Naruto vs Sasuke, gameplay, which once again, no one really cared about. While Bandai Namco kept on growing, on the PSP they released Naruto Shippuden Kizuna Drive, which was a sequel to Akatsuki Rising. Remember when Uzumaki Chronicles came to the PSP? That series. And Kizuna Drive would make good on that transition. It polished a lot of the gameplay with new animations and graphics. They varied up the mission design, making the game less boring than it was, and it even added local multiplayer. The transition to PSP had maybe produced the best Uzumaki Chronicles to date, but unfortunately the PSP itself was a dying console at this point, so this ended up being the final game in the series. But no need to feel sorry for Bandai, because they also released Naruto Shippuden Ultimate Ninja Storm 2, and this time they put it out on both the West and Japan at the same time, completely ignoring the fact that the dubbed version of the anime hadn't caught up yet. Bandai learned their lesson, but that wasn't the only lesson they learned. This was no longer a PlayStation 3 exclusive game, it came out for the Xbox 360 as well, because they now saw Naruto was also popular in the United States and Europe, where the Xbox 360 actually sold some systems unlike Japan. Many people speculate that it was Ubisoft who showed them the door, with Rise of the Ninja and Broken Bond. And now, holding this Naruto license, the only ones releasing Naruto games on all the home consoles were Bandai Namco Entertainment. 2011 started with the release of a new handheld console from Nintendo, the 3DS, which could be amazing news for Takara Tomy, who was quickly losing interest in holding this license. But they decided to give it one last chance, and that chance came in the form of Naruto Shippuden 3D, The New Era, released in both Japan, Europe, and Australia. But once again, Tomy had succeeded in producing one of the worst Naruto games ever made, which ended up being the last Naruto game published by Takara Tomy. The maker of amazing Clash of Ninja games ended up ruining its reputation with Naruto games by releasing poor quality products such as this one. It was a year of final games, of giving series or projects one last chance. This was also the case with Bandai Namco's Ultimate Ninja Heroes series. Naruto Shippuden Ultimate Ninja Impact was the last Naruto game on the PSP, and Bandai changed the formula significantly. They made it a brawler out of it, where you defeat multiple ninja at any given time, with a story mode that covered the anime, including some boss fights. It was a decent game to say goodbye to the PSP. But now Bandai Namco were the only company publishing Naruto games. They had no competition. They could go anywhere they wanted, so they went back to the Storm series. With Naruto Shippuden Ultimate Ninja Storm Generations, the game significantly changed the story mode, including new original animations and giving us fights from both generations of characters. They also introduced a substitution gauge, which was a crucial change in the gameplay, but sacrificing the epic boss battles in story mode was something fans weren't too fond of, so this game has received some mixed reviews. With Tomy dropping out of the Naruto game, the 3DS was now open for Bandai to publish games, and they gave it a shot with Naruto Powerful Shippuden, a game based off the spin-off series Rock Lee and his ninja pals. As such, the game shared the chibi art style with the show, giving it some charm. Gameplay was competent, but like the spin-off series, it was quickly forgotten. And that was the last Naruto game we've seen on the 3DS. Taking the criticism from Storm Generations into account, CyberConnect 2 and Bandai Namco returned stronger than ever, with Naruto Shippuden Ultimate Ninja Storm 3, which brought back story mode with epic boss battles. It gave us a huge roster and polished the gameplay, to the point that it is still the favorite Storm game for many fans. A few months later, this would become their first Storm game on the PC. Now that Bandai Namco was alone in the Naruto games market, they could take such risks, releasing games for new platforms despite Japan's constant fear of piracy. They took the chance and never went back. The Naruto games they would release afterwards would all come to the PC as well. 2013 was also the year when CyberConnect 2 and Bandai Namco released Naruto Online, a free-to-play Naruto game that you can play on your browser. Like many of these free browser games, it was, and still is, very limited, but hey, it's free and it's still alive to this day. Right after the launch of Storm 3 on PC, new consoles were arriving. The PlayStation 4 and Xbox One both launched in November of 2013. But just like the previous generation, CC2 and Bandai Namco didn't immediately jump onto the new generation. They instead released another Storm game without the traditional story mode that so many players loved. Naruto Shippuden Ultimate Ninja Storm Revolution made a lot of changes to the gameplay. Some were welcomed, others not so much. As far as story, Mecha Naruto was created by Kishimoto Masashi just for this game, game, and while he wasn't very popular, the original animation that was featured for other characters was very well received. But overall, this game never became the community's favorite. You may have noticed by now that the rate of Naruto games releasing has slowed down drastically. With Tomy leaving the game and Bandai focusing their games on the home consoles, we're only seeing 1, maybe 2 games a year. And 2015 was the first year since the beginning of the history of Naruto games where we didn't really see anything new. Bandai Namco released Naruto Online in the West since it had only been in Japan so far, and that was it. And it wouldn't be until the beginning of 2016 that we would see Naruto Storm 4. The publisher was switching platforms, advancing to the next generation, which revamped visuals, in particular facial animations, establishing Storm 4 as the game with the best anime graphics to date. It was miles above and beyond anything anyone had done so far. It also made a few changes to gameplay, namely with the leader change system, allowing you to switch characters on the fly. This brought in new meta, new strategies to the game, and it also brought the story to the end of the Naruto arc. The end of Naruto Shippuden before the anime even got there. The Naruto universe was moving on, and so were CyberConnect 2, who announced that after developing DLC for this game, they would stop making Storm games and move on to other projects. It was one heck of a journey, from the first Ultimate Ninja on PlayStation 2, all the way to Storm 4 on PlayStation 4. In 2017, the Naruto Shippuden anime finally ended and gave birth to the first episode of Boruto: Naruto Next Generations. CyberConnect 2 promised and delivered the Storm 4 DLC Road to Boruto with new characters and a Boruto story mode, and also released the Storm Trilogy, which included Storm 1, 2, and 3 for the new consoles. And after that, they officially stepped away from the game. Despite the huge success that was the Ultimate Ninja and Storm series, many players were unhappy with the path Bandai Namco had taken. Too many Storm games had come out in the latest years, and now players no longer had the choice between getting Storm or getting Clash of Ninja, because Storm was all there is as far as Naruto games were concerned. Plus, another Bandai Namco license had games that had severely evolved. I'm talking about Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball games had given players a much wanted feature, which was character creation. So, Bandai Namco, inspired by the success of character creation in Dragon Ball, started development with a new studio on a brand new Naruto game. Naruto to Boruto: Shinobi Striker, a multiplayer-focused game that gives players the chance to create and customize their own ninja, and then use them in online battles. Many players rejoiced for this being a departure from the Storm series. Many praised the fact that they can finally create their own ninja, but many also criticized the fact that this is a multiplayer-focused game with no story mode. Something that the Storm games had perfected over the last years was now a feature missed in Shinobi Striker. As for the quality of the actual game, well, that's a story for another time, because as of the recording of this video, the game isn't out yet, but early next year, the history of Naruto games will continue. Thank you for watching part 3 of our complete history of Naruto games. If you've missed parts 1 or 2, you can click the videos on your screen right now. Let me know in the comments what's your favorite Naruto game from the entire history. And as always, thank you very much for watching. My name's Globku, and I'll see you guys next time. Boy.